Today on BRStv, we're going to do something kind of fun and upgrade a tank to something more polished and bigger. This is episode 11 of How to Start a Saltwater Aquarium. Hi, I'm Ryan, host of BRStv, where each week we hit on a topic related to reefing. This week we're going to upgrade this 40-gallon breeder to a brand new tank and stand. For this we reached out to Reef Savvy and their partner Synergy Reef to try to make something special for this video. I've never used either of these companies before, but their reputation in our industry is rock solid, and I've seen their work at many shows like MACNA, so it seemed like a solid choice. Even though both companies are booked out fairly far, they were kind enough to give us a pretty good deal and expedite construction, so it was done in time for this episode. Some of you may remember this tank from the How to Start a Saltwater Aquarium series. To be honest, I never intended to keep this tank up so long, but it looks pretty nice, so I'm going to transfer the tank to something a bit more attractive and make it my office tank. Well, the inside of the tank looks nice. I can't say the same about the outside. Well, they are inexpensive. I don't think anyone likes these pine stands. It just doesn't make any sense to put so much time and money into a reef tank and have the tank itself be such an eyesore. I'm also going to take this chance to move the tank from my home to our new warehouse. I plan on putting something much larger in the house, hopefully late winter or early spring. I need a tank at the office anyways, so it seemed like a good time to make the swap. Moving the tank should be fairly easy. The aquascape is only 2 rocks, so we should be able to remove the rock without any major issues. It's likely that a few of the corals might fall off during transport, but we can always reattach them later. We're going to get the new tank up and running first, so all we need to do is drop the rock and livestock in. Let's cruise over to the warehouse and get it ready. The Reef Savvy tank and stand arrived the other day and was packed in their own wooden crates. Even though the shipping company was clearly pretty rough with them, they arrived safe and sound. Let's get them moved into their new home. Here they are in their new home. This is a huge step up over the black trim tank and pine stand. I also took the opportunity to increase each dimension a couple inches, which resulted in a 40 by 20 by 20 and brought the tank from 40 gallons to 70. The stand they made is a black laminate on plywood with stainless steel hinges. I was happy there was no crossbar in front, which will make it much easier to get equipment in and out for standard maintenance. You can see the top of the stand is flat. Normally we'd have to put a piece of foam in between the stand and tank to distribute the weight evenly and reduce pressure points which could weaken or crack the tank. Reef Savvy has what they call a phantom bottom, which allows you to set the tank directly on the stand. In this case they use 3/4 inch glass with a black film and an additional layer of closed cell PVC foam. Beyond the sharp looking beveled edges and general aesthetic appeal, one of the features most people really like is the Ghost Overflow. The Ghost Overflow is basically 2 pieces, an ultra low profile overflow on the inside which has magnetically coupled teeth for easy cleaning and an external box for plumbing. The sump we're going to use is the Reef Savvy Shadow Box, which is made by Reef Synergy. Reef Synergy typically uses a neon green for their designs, which looks ultra sharp, but in this case Reef Savvy has them using smoked acrylic for the shadow box. Concept here is to hide salt creep and other things that typically make a sump ugly after a few months. To help you see what you're doing, they included a nice LED strip into the sump design, which is pretty smart. The shadow box also has a nice design for 2 filter socks, which should be ultra quiet. I know there's a lot of debate on the use of filter socks, but at the end of the day I prefer using them because it reduces the particulate matter from the water column, which I find pretty unappealing. It also has an adjustable water baffle, which allows you to adjust the water level in the skimmer chamber from 6 to 10 inches, which I think is a real valuable tool as you try to fine-tune skimmer performance. We did decide to change some things up a bit as far as equipment is concerned. We had some issues with hanging a light in this room because of the drop ceiling and the room's lighting fixtures directly over the tank. This provided a perfect opportunity to use the Kessel 360 LED pendant. If you've been watching our other videos, you already know that we really like this light because of the natural shimmer lines produced by the compact LED cluster. Since LEDs entered the scene, the discussion has always been about emulating metal halides. I think sometimes we forget what we're really trying to emulate is the sun and what it looks like in a reef environment. The natural looking shimmer lines are as close to snorkeling or diving as I've seen, better than halides in my opinion. I also appreciate the shadowing effects under the rocks and fish, which greatly improves the perception of depth within the tank, something that's impossible to achieve with large spreads of LEDs or even halide bulbs with large reflectors. I'm also going to start with new sand. I've never had any luck trying to reuse sand. Generally it just becomes an unwanted source of nutrients in the new tank. This isn't always the case, but I'm no longer willing to find out the hard way. Plumbing is fairly simple. While Reef Savvy's Ghost Overflow can be plumbed basically any way you like, we're going to go with what's commonly referred to as the bean animal, which uses 3 overflow pipes. One you tune with a gate valve to a full siphon that closely matches the flow from your return pump. The second one is an emergency overflow, which is capable of handling the flow if the first one were to ever get clogged with algae, snails, or other random items. The third one has a siphon break at the top, which allows it to carry a little bit of water to make the tuning process a little easier, and it only carries a full siphon if the siphon break on the top of the pipe were to ever get covered. For the return, I'm going to use the Speedwave DC Pump. These DC pumps that have recently come on the scene are fantastic. Biggest benefit is they run absolutely silent. In pretty much every normal setup, there's no way you'd even know it's on. They come with a neat control pad to increase or decrease flow, as well as a feed mode. One of the cooler features is it doesn't just turn on full blast when you plug it in, it slowly ramps up instead. Better yet, they're almost the same price as inexpensive AC options in the same flow range. Since I already have it and it hasn't failed me, I'm going to continue using the Elos Auto Top-Off. My favorite feature is easily how low profile the probe is. This can fit in basically any sump, and there's no moving parts to fail you. Since starting this tank, I've gone through a variety of skimmers, all of which worked well. However, the Omega 150 from Vertex is the one where I stopped changing because it simply worked better than the others I tried. That and the build quality can be experienced with every component. For those of you that already own one, you'll know what I mean when I say you're in for something special the moment you touch the packaging. I'm going to take this opportunity to swap out the old heater for a pair of the Cobalt Aquatics neo-therms. I really like the ultra low profile, and while I'm sure it can happen, I've never encountered one failing in the on position. I also needed to decide if I'm going to stick with the Ecotech MP10s or upgrade to the MP40s. I'm pretty much right in the middle, but rather than run the MP10s at maximum, I ended up going with the MP40s where I can operate them at 60 to 70%, which should extend the working life and run almost completely silent at that speed. Lastly, I'm going to stick with the Neptune Controller because it has a few unique features I like, which work well. I use a leak detector and salinity probe to protect my home from damage. They're capable of controlling my Ecotech pumps. It's possible to notify me of power outages, and the internet connectivity is much more robust than some of the cheaper options. Now that this tank is running, I'm going to swing home and grab the livestock and rock. I picked up this container we're going to use for transport. The lid fits fairly well. There might be some spillage in the car, but it won't be more than a couple towels can handle. So that's about it. Everything is back in the tank, and we got rid of that ugly pine stand. The sump is a huge improvement, and with the rimless Reef Savvy tank, the tank itself finally matches the quality of the rest of the things in the room. So I think this finally concludes the How to Start a Saltwater Tank series. We've taken this tank from a 40-gallon with a slew of hang-on equipment to a solid reef tank we moved upstairs to something I think will ultimately be really special here at the office. My hope is to start a new series next year where we install a 6 to 8 foot tank in my living room. To give you a sneak peek, we're discussing putting it on the second floor where it'll need to be silent, so we'll likely have to have a remote sump in the basement. There'll be a ton to go over, from selecting the right location for the tank, building supports for the floor to prevent the 2,000 to 3,000 pound tank from crashing through the ceiling below, building out the fish room, sump, and remote plumbing. My wife has given me somewhere around 80% approval for this project, and I've started begging finance to build this into our 2014 plans. If you're interested in seeing this project, let them know by giving us a thumbs up and commenting below. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified when this comes out. See you all next week with another episode of BRStv.